My name is Tom Young. I was born in Paris and lived there for 12 years until my family decided to move to California in search for better weather. And today I'll be giving a little speech on all the future opportunities that will present themselves to all of us after we go on with our lives, after what feels like an eternity of college prep. We finally made it, even though it felt like this day would never come back in the elementary school days. We are adults and we are starting our own lives. When I was given the chance to give this speech, I wondered what I could focus on because talking about the future is so broad and is so different for everyone. So I decided to use a book I recently read called Brave New World by Aldous Huxley for the topic of this graduation speech. The reason I chose this novel is because its themes have valuable lessons that everyone should hear before jumping into the real world. So let me get started. The book focuses on a dystopian future in the year AF 632, AF meaning after Ford, because the Ford assembly line was considered godlike. So this era began when Ford introduced his Model T. The novel examines a futuristic society called the World State that revolves around science and efficiency. In this society, emotions and individuality are conditioned out of children at a young age. Children are created outside the womb and cloned in order to increase the population. So the reader is then introduced to the class system of the world, where citizens are sorted as embryos to be a certain class. The embryos, which exist within the tubes and incubators, are provided with different amounts of chemicals and hormones in order to condition them into predetermined classes. So embryos are destined to the higher classes get chemicals to perfect them both physically and mentally, whereas those of the lower classes are altered to be more imperfect in those same categories. So the classes in order from highest to lowest are alpha, beta, gamma, delta, and epsilon. The alphas are meant to be like the leaders, and the epsilons are meant to be workers and laborers and just the lower class. At this point, you might be wondering how this book has any lessons that high school graduates could benefit from. But the environment that was built by Huxley may seem very different at first, than our world, but the interactions inside them are actually pretty similar. So back to the novel. In the world state, everyone takes a dose of a drug called soma, which basically makes sure everyone gets an artificial happiness and is always content with the position they're in. Someone who looks at this way of life differently is the main character of the story, Bernard Marx. He's not the typical alpha though. He's shorter than the hundreds of his supposed to be identical twins, and Bernard's conditioning seems to not have worked while he was an embryo, and rumors have it that there was some alcohol that was slipped in his embryo during his making on accident. So he adores spending time alone, and he would rather think for himself than just take soma and sleep with random people, which is what most people do. He and his love interest, Lenina Crown, travel to a savage reservation where Marx's boss, the director, supposedly lost a female companion some years ago. When the two arrive, they see people living there engaging in unfamiliar rituals, which to us would seem pretty normal. But they also stumble upon a woman, Linda, and her son, John, also referred as a savage, who Marx correctly assumes to be one of the lost family members mentioned by the director. So as they arrive at the reservation, the first theme of the book actually kind of starts taking shape, which is soma as a symbol for comfort and self-satisfaction in the world state society. So once Bernard and Lenina arrive at the savage reservation and meet the rather curious John, Lenina decides that she has had enough and she takes a large dose of soma and basically knocks herself out for around a day. Lenina does this because her conditioning makes her believe that the social ideas found in the savage reservation are repulsive, and saying that meeting and talking to John had been a day of queerness and horror. So basically, she's just conditioned to get out of bad situations by just taking drugs. Lenina's conditioning has started that taking soma is a good thing, and it makes her forget all her problems. This is the reason that John's mom, Linda, starts to take it constantly when she gets back from the reservation after being deprived of it for so long. She decides to live the rest of her life in a blissful soma high, even if it means she will only live for around 2 more months. Soma is used multiple times with the sword to show that people in the society rely on getting high to get by, and the world leaders use it to keep the masses calm, happy, and ignorant of the problems around them. Another symbol in the book is repetition. It's a major device, and besides the obvious repetition of the conditioning events in adults' lives are also highly repetitive. Even sex is made this way. Before Bernard goes to the reservation, he attends a solidarity service with 11 other World State citizens. They all chant many verses about making the 12 of their beings into one. Before breaking down into this chant: orgy porgy, forward and fun, kiss the girls and make them one. Boys at one with girls at peace, orgy porgy gives release. The chant is repeated and repeated as the 12 people become one. The World State Society buys the repetition of these short phrases because from the earliest point possible, the kids are just pumped with full repetitive responses to basic things while they sleep, called conditioning. These phrases give them all uniform desires, which makes them enjoy the same things, and makes it way easier for them to live in this society. Repetition is used to control the people into behaving a certain way and doing certain things, like how epsilons are conditioned to hate flowers, so they don't want to go outside, and they stay in the city and do their mundane jobs. Repetition dominates the minds of the society and blinds them from thinking their own thoughts. Both these topics feed into the major theme of the book. Complete societal happiness is achievable, but truth and a desire for knowledge must be ignored. Mass conditioning makes society all think and act the same way, happy to be together because of phrases like everyone needs everyone else, convincing them that they should never be alone. The conditioning sets people to be happy in their places in life, and the soma keeps them there. Everyone who is happy to forget is happy with their lives. Ignorance can truly lead to bliss. In these tough times where a lot of things are not going the way they were supposed to in our life, because of the coronavirus and other issues in our world, it's important to think for yourself and take time to reflect on your life and the decisions you make, especially when starting a new chapter like all of us. The end of the book proves that thinking for yourself can lead to the discoveries that no one else around you realized, and sometimes it might be for the best. I'm not going to spoil it though, so you guys can finish the book if you guys want to. I hope you guys enjoyed what I had to say, and congratulations to the class of 2020 for being so tough during these hard times. And yeah, goodbye.